Good morning, folks. MLive Chief Meteorologist Mark Torgrosa here with the MLive Morning Weather Update. Running a couple of minutes late today. Sorry about that. Had to get done, do some life stuff. I went through all the weather data, and fall, nowhere in sight for the next couple of weeks. One of these days, I think with the warming globe, we're going to wake up and we're going to go, did our fall become like really, really long? So we will get a cool down at some point, but it's not in this forecast. Here is the satellite imagery, and one lone thunderstorm has popped up in the western part of the UP. Otherwise, lower Michigan is clear, except for these little fog banks. This is the time of the year when you get light wind, you get a fog bank develops. You can see it in the center of the state from around Saginaw down toward Alma and up along the northeast shoreline. That'll dissipate here in the next couple of hours, and then we'll be off and running with sunshine once again. Only thing to look at is that one lone thunder shower. Okay, so let's start off with the big picture, and do we see any sort of cool down? So you're looking at the upper airflow, and you can hopefully you can get a real feel right now that the upper levels are warm. You see that big kind of pink circle over Michigan, over Wisconsin, over Ontario. That's the center of the upper level high. That's a warm dome of air. Warm domes of air aloft are stable, and then eventually the heat transfers down to the ground. So we're still in that. It breaks down a little bit because storm systems are trying to move through this ridge, and they're just being knocked down. So this is Saturday, and we look for a U-shaped bend for a rain. This is Sunday, so our next chance of an actual rain in much of lower Michigan, still spotty at best, probably, is on Sunday. You can see how that storm system doesn't move onto the East Coast and continue to be a big one. It just kind of weakens and dies, and that's what's happening. Now, this model run wants to take the next one, drop it into the south. Odd look. Why? Because the ridge wants to be over the whole U.S. So it drops it down, then it lifts it out. We're talking the following weekend, September 27th, and then look toward the end. Now, sometimes all the models, even this good one, the European, gets funky at the end. We're out to October 1st, and what does it say? It says we are still easily into the 70s with maybe 80 degrees. So let's go to that same model in its ensemble mode. You know, I always talk about that. I just showed you one run of it. Now I'm going to show you 51 tweaks averaged together. I've never been a fan of fried green tomatoes. Never, Connie. Not sure what, never been a fan. I've tried them several times. So this is the average of 51 tweaks. There's your bend on Sunday. So that would verify that would be the first time we would hope to get a rainfall. And I'm using the word hope now because we're going to be getting probably extremely dry. Now we're out to September 26th, 27th. So the ensemble doesn't show quite as big of a ridge, and it won't, because remember, we're averaging 51 outcomes from various tweakings in the model. So it's going to be watered down, but what it does show is that there's still a tendency for the atmosphere to be warmer than normal, and it could very well be in that ridging pattern that I showed you prior to that. A radar forecast is nothing. Radar forecast today, UP storm dies. Now, we had been talking about Thursday, an isolated shower or thunder shower still in the offing. This is midday Thursday, so still very quiet, but northern lower Michigan, the European model still wants to show that actually Wednesday night and Thursday afternoon, just a light, you know. I wouldn't even plan on it. And then we go back to a dry flow for Friday and Saturday. And like I said, Sunday would be our next chance of scattered thunder showers. Better chance in the north than in the south. Maybe into Monday. Then you start to see perhaps areas of showers every few days. Nothing regular because the atmosphere is still blocked up. This is September 27th. If we try to find an actual full-fledged storm, we have to go out to September 27th to do so. And look at these temperatures. In the 80s today, I would say for most places, this model is probably a few degrees too cool, so I'd call it 80 to 85. And tomorrow I would call it 80 to 85. And Thursday, I'd call it 85-ish in a lot of places, a little cooler in the north. And Amy Z, are we in El Nino or La Nina? Right now we're in neither, what we call neutral state, not El Nino, not La Nina. And we're expected to have a weak La Nina, weak and short La Nina develop very soon into the first month or two of winter. So probably there will not be any impact from El Nino or La Nina on our winter. So here's Saturday, 70s to 80s. Here's Sunday, back to the 80s. This model has been consistent in showing Sunday being a very warm day. Monday, next Monday, September 22nd, 80s. And 24th, 25th, 80s, 26th in the 80s, 27th in the 70s, 28th in the 80s, and 29th, and September 30th. So guess what? There is absolutely no fall weather anywhere in sight for Michigan. Not a surprise. September has turned out to be quite a warm month over the past, at least past decade, maybe trending over the last couple of decades. So there you have it. It's summer gear, and enjoy. We'll pay for it, but it does seem as though in winter, if you're not a winter fan, 50% of Michiganders not a winter fan, 50% love winter. If you're the 50% not a winter fan, you might, one of these days you're going to wake up and you're going to really have your dream come true. Thanks for joining me on the MLive Morning Weather Update. I'm MLive Chief Meteorologist Mark Torregrossa. Have yourselves a great day. Enjoy the sun and the heat.